And we are back on Talk of the Town, and we are talking about things that I like to talk about, things with microphones and potting up things and channels and all that kind of stuff, and recording, because that's part of the industry that I'm in. It's also the part of the industry that this guest is in, as well as Buzz Kemper joins us from Audio for the Arts. Welcome on in.
Well, thank you very much, Rich. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by. You know, studios come and go all the time in Madison. AFA now has been around for 20 years. What do you attribute the staying power to AFA?
You know, I think it's because my business partner and I have managed to not strangle each other. And no, I think it's largely diversity. We do a lot of different kinds of music, and we do audio for business, and we do both in studio and on location, and that helps a lot of our clients. You know, when we work with a symphony orchestra, 60, 70 piece orchestra, they're not going to fit in our studio. It's about the size of yours here, actually. And so what we do is, if we're working with the Madison Symphony, we'll work with them at Overture Hall. Okay. If we're working with the Wisconsin Philharmonic, we work with them in the hall that they normally play in Brookfield, and so on and so forth. So we can handle a number of different music styles, audio for business, and we can either have the client come to us or we can go to them. And it's been a great formula.
Well, you talk about 20 years, and 20 years, you know, can come and go like that. How has the recording industry kind of evolved, you know, for you, and how have you evolved over the last 20 years?
That's a great question. I mean, the technology I won't even get into, because it's so easy to get deep into the weeds on that. But the technology, let me just suffice to say that the technology has changed radically. You know, I started out manually cutting analog tape with a razor blade, and you know, now of course,
I remember those days.
Yeah. Now of course we're in the virtual world, so that's all changed. But in terms of just the way that the industry works, you know, we no longer have the big, you know, mega studios that do really big, high-end, high-dollar kind of thing. I shouldn't say we don't, but we have much fewer of those. And Smart Studios, for instance, which was the top-of-the-line rock and roll studio in Madison for many years, eventually went out of business because those kinds of jobs sort of dried up. So I think that what you have to do nowadays to be in business as a studio is just be very diversified, put a lot of emphasis on customer service, make sure that every customer feels like you're adding enough value to their product that they are going to go to you instead of going to their friend who has a studio in their basement, because I guarantee you and I and everybody we know knows at least one person who has a studio in their basement. Right. And so they have to have a reason to want to come to us, and we provide that reason with quality and customer service.
And you also mentioned a word, diversification. Mm-hmm. So you had mentioned the Wisconsin Philharmonic, the Madison Symphony Orchestra. Do you just specialize in that, or when you talk diversification, you do all kinds of music?
We do all kinds of music, yeah. And the symphony stuff I mentioned because it is kind of an oddity. Very few audio people will work with a full symphony orchestra or a full choral group, and we have several of them with whom we work, and we love that. But we do jazz, we do rock. When Smart Studios, which I mentioned earlier, when they closed down, their lead engineer came to us, and he is just a top-notch recording engineer for rock music. He fairly recently did an album at my studio with the guitarist who played with Genesis for many years.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, so we have, you know, he has those kinds of clients, and so we do audio for business as well. So basically, our formula is, if we think we can do an excellent job for you, we'll take the job. If we don't think we can do an excellent job for you, we'll recommend one of our competitors who we know will take care of you.
You know, 20 years, I'm sure there's a lot of stories. In about 20 seconds, can you give us a good story?
Yeah, I mean, there of course, you know, there are just a million of them. But there was one time when my business partner and I were doing sound for the Dalai Lama, and the State Department was there to protect him, and I went over to the State Department guy and I said, his name was Michael. I said, Michael, I just want you to know that and he goes, I know. And I said, okay, I need to run out there and adjust a mic. He said, I know. And I started to say, and that's my business, but he said, I know. And I finally said, I laughed and I said, Michael, you know what I had for breakfast this morning, don't you? And he didn't crack a smile, he just said, Pretty much.
Love
So
it.
we were vetted by the State Department, and we passed. So that was great.
Check him out, Audio for the Arts. It's Buzz Kemper who joins us here on Talk of the Town. Thanks for joining us, Buzz.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with more Talk of the Town here on CW57.